Maddie the Batty closing out Batty Thursday here live in studio on the Odyssey app, on twitch.tv/ESPN1320, youtube.com/ESPN1320. We welcome in ABC 10's Matt George, the host of the Locked On Kings podcast. Cool to have you in studio, man.
Hey, I arrived early, but baddies arrive when they want to.
That's how it works. That's
Baddies
how it
arrive
works.
when they choose.
Yes, indeed.
I had to ditch my heels though to get up the stairs.
Well, you had to do what you got. I mean, sometimes the baddies take their shoes off after.
That's all right. That's all right.
This is awesome. I haven't been in a studio with D'Lo for years, and it's bringing back, I'm sure, PTSD to you. Joyous memories for me. This is great. I love this.
No, it would only be PTSD if you were sitting on that side of the glass.
I was worried about it too.
Then I would just instinctively start screaming at you. just out of muscle memory, I'd start yelling at you.
Jesse, you're already doing a better job because you're not me.
Point out, I've never yelled at Jesse. I'll tell you that.
Well, he's yelled at me.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a term of endearment, I think.
Well, Jesse's never needed to be yelled at before.
Oh, Jesse's talented. I get it.
Man, it's a great run that the Kings are on. Podcasts are fun. Radio is fun. Television is fun. Why, the team has played good basketball, in my opinion, for the 13 games that they've played. What have you seen over the course of the last 7 or 8 or God, it might be up to 9, where it's just really started to click for them?
Well, everything that I've seen, to me, and Jesse and I were actually just discussing this, like, it's believable. Like, what the Kings are doing is believable. Like, I believe it can continue. First, like, if the Kings were putting up 153 points every night and beating teams because they were shooting 50% from three-point range as a team consistently, I know, okay, that's a hot stretch. I don't expect that to carry out over the course of an entire season. Yeah. But they're winning because on a night, you'll get 31 from Terrence Davis. On another night, you'll get 18 from Malik paired with a 20-20 game from Sabonis. It's not just De'Aaron Fox or one guy carrying all the load, having to be perfect every single night, and everybody else is just kind of the breadcrumbs to get you to 115, 120 points. Like, the way the Sacramento Kings are playing, it's like, okay, even if this guy isn't on, I believe the team can pick it up. And they're not doing any one thing that's like, even if you go back to when they got off to the really good start in 2018, right? They were playing super fast pace, getting up and down the floor, exhausting teams. It was like, okay, when does this hit the wall? When do either teams get in shape or teams do what they eventually did, which is, okay, we're not going to let you run anymore, beat us in the half court. As soon as that happened, the Kings fell off a cliff.
Or the Kings just punched themselves out. Like they got tired.
As Willie Cauley-Stein was saying, with throwing up in trash cans during practice. There's a lot of different things. Like, I think back to the 0-4 start. I really think, what is the most different thing between the 0-4 start and where the Kings are at right now? And to me, it's Mike Brown's rotations. Like, it's solidified. It's established. Like, the one thing that stands out to me is that De'Aaron Fox exits the game pretty much around the same point every single first quarter. He's one of the first, usually 2 out of the game. He's your star, your best player is the first one subbed out of the game. Yeah. Mike Brown does that. So the end of the first quarter, early second quarter, he can have Malik Monk and Fox on the floor together. Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox didn't play together, period, during the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Remember, we were all saying, when are we going to see these two play together? Yeah. So I think Mike has figured rotations out. It's consistent. Paired that with guys now know their roles. To me, it's made all the difference for this team.
Yeah. Just to mention a point there, Matt, 8 different players for the Sacramento Kings have scored 20 or more points in a game this season.
Wow. And that goes into what you were talking about, right? Like, this all seems sustainable, right? I was talking to Jason Jones about this yesterday, and you look at
J Street Vibes available wherever you get podcasts
shout out
from.
to J Street
so
Vibes.
Glad it's back
here. We're just trying to do what we can. But the 2 memories that I have of the Kings starting well for a season was, what year is this? I think it's 2014-15. Year Malone got fired.
Yep.
They started 5-1. They had a couple really good wins. And it was like, all right, well, maybe this might be it. They signed Darren Collison and things were feeling good. And obviously that went nowhere fast. And, I was talking to Jason about it. And he's like, there were things behind the scenes that you're like, this is they're going to come to a head at some point. This ain't going to happen. The Jaeger year, they're running up and down and all this other stuff. But it was really like, even Jaeger would say, once they figure out, like, we're running and they get 4 guys back and get us in the half court, I don't know what we're going to do then.
Yep.
Right. Then that's what happened. This year doesn't feel like that at all. Feels like that's who these guys are. It feels like, I keep saying it, and until I see otherwise, they're going to score. Like, they're going to score. This is a team that gets buckets. And nobody's like playing above their head. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. De'Aaron Fox is doing what we expect him to do. Sabonis is doing what we expect him to do. Kevin Huerter, it's not like he's averaging 25. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Malik Monk, this is what he does, 12, 13 points a night. Like, this is who they are, and that's why this seems like this is who they're going to be.
And you know what else is believable too is I believe this team can still get better versus maybe in 2018 when they're off to that good start. It was like, wow, this team's playing great and they're fun and Iman Shumpert, they scores, but where do they go from here? How do they get better from this point? Like this, I genuinely believe when Mike hits the podium and says, we can take 2 more steps forward and we're probably going to take a couple steps back. Like I expect this team to hit a run at some point. I'm hoping it's not tonight against San Antonio. I'm really anxious to see what the Kings look like tonight, because in the past, Kings teams would get big wins, bring a little unearned swagger into the next game. Hey, I'm on a 3-game win streak. I believe we're better than the San Antonio Spurs. We're at home. We just embarrassed the Nets on national television. Man, we're feeling ourselves, light the beam, and then San Antonio comes out and punches them in the face, and they're like, well, crap, and they fall back into old bad habits. Like I want to see. I don't expect the Kings to dominate for all 4 quarters tonight the same way they did against Brooklyn. But are you the better team, and are you playing like the better team with a sense of urgency? Like that's really at the top of my list for what I'm seeing tonight. But I do believe, even with this team playing this well right now, that they can get better. And that doesn't mean that they go undefeated the rest of the season. I just mean they play better, sharper, together basketball.
What do you think it is that they could do better? What's like the number one thing that you could see them taking a step forward with?
I mean, defense is the easy answer to all of the questions. And what excited me the most about the game that Terrence Davis had is he started that game on the defensive end. Like I posted 2 highlights of big moments offensively for Davis. He had a steal and a transition dunk. He also had a steal and a transition 3. That was when he bumped shoulders with Ben Simmons. Both of those started with his defense, and he just capped it off on the other end. So, I mean, defensively, I think this team can always get better. The other thing for me too is, I guess 2 things. One is if they could consistently start the first and third quarters the same way, even if it's not blowing a team out, but just starting good, establishing themselves, establishing a tone and not falling into too big of a hole or kind of scrambling, I think that's big. And then, like, we believe this team can compete every night. So they're going to be in a lot of close games. They're going to eventually be in a lot of close games against playoff teams that are better than them. How do they improve as closers? Like, and they've looked better in closing in close games. They closed well against the Lakers. I would argue maybe that game shouldn't have been close, but who cares? You won it. So closing is, I think, a big thing for them too.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about like them improving on the defensive end, and I agree. Like they can get better on the defensive end. But earlier in the show, and we've been meaning to get to this, but Will Z was talking about, there are a ton of good defensive numbers hiding in the Kings, stat lines if you look hard enough. And he talks about, one of the biggest ones is the Kings are only allowed 11.7 second chance points and leading the league with only allowing 8.4 offensive rebounds. Last year, they gave up the 4th most in second chance points. And, little things like that, like, I mean, because it also doesn't necessarily match up with what I'm seeing, the numbers of them being the 23rd defensive team. I don't look at them and be like, this team don't play no defense.
Right.
Like, I think they get after it on the defensive end, and maybe they're one of those teams where it's timely, right? Like it's timely defense. And you want to get away from that. You want to be able to play defense for more than just 2-minute spurts, but maybe that's kind of what they are right now, as a team that plays timely defense, and it's enough with the way they score to be able to, kind of keep things going.
Will Z continues to be phenomenal, and I want Will to help me create a stat, which is like back-breaking offensive rebounds, because it felt like the Kings gave up 1 or 2 back-breaking offensive rebounds a game in close games last season.
Like even early this season, they had some early this season that were brutal.
You do all that work to get that stop, and then they get a fresh 14 seconds, and it kills you. And they usually score off of it. Good teams find a way to score on the second chance opportunities. So if you're limiting those alone, that to me is immense growth for this team.
Yeah.
Our very, very good friend, Chris Haynes, is reporting that the Brooklyn Nets, the Sacramento Kings beat the Brooklyn Nets so bad, Kyrie Irving is returning on Sunday.
Wow. Hey, I'll give a shout out to Kenny Smith. He called this one on after the
Yeah.
game. He's like, yeah,
About that time.
this is what they do.
It's about
Whenever
that
they get in a
time.
bind, it's usually like, all right, Kyrie, you
It's
come back
Kyrie's
around.
music.
Who do you think, in all likelihood, for those just tuning in, Keegan Murray won't play tonight. He's not expected to play. He's listed as doubtful. James Ham reported he's not expected to play tonight, though he hasn't been completely ruled out yet. It sounds like he's going to be. Who do you think fills that starting position?
Yeah, I tweeted about this early on. I think it should be Terrence Davis. And it's not just because he's coming off of a 31-point performance, and that's kind of easy to be, I guess, viewed as a knee-jerk reaction. But to me, again, Terrence did well defensively to start that offense. So I'm expecting that from him again tonight. And on top of that, Terrence started the second half with the rest of the Kings starters, and it worked pretty well in the third quarter of the Nets game on Tuesday. So is that Mike made that decision because he saw how red hot Terrence Davis was and how good of a second quarter he had, and it was just doing so accordingly? Or was that because he believed Terrence was right for that lineup? And I've stood by, and I'll continue to say, even if there's an argument to be made for Malik Monk being moved into the starting lineup, I think he's in the perfect role in what he's doing coming off the bench, and that rotation where Malik's been coming in like 3/4 of the way through the first quarter has been working really, really well for everybody. I wouldn't touch that. I think moving Terrence into the starting lineup is a less disruptive move, which might be my overall point or the most important thing. And then I would consider also, if it's not Terrence Davis, maybe consider Trey Lyles just to keep Barnes at the
That's where I
three.
was going to go.
So it's either, to me, number one is Terrence Davis, but Trey Lyles is not a bad option.
I kind of feel like Trey Lyles might be my first option. That's where I was going to go because it keeps everything pretty much in line with what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Trey Lyles can play.
Because in your scenario,
Barnes
Harrison goes to the 4.
Yeah.
And with this one, Trey Lyles, I'm not gonna disrespect the guy and say poor man's anything. He can do about what Keegan does right now. You know, he can play that type of game.
Yeah.
And it allows TD and Monk to stay in their roles coming off the bench, and where they seem to possibly be having some type of comfort. And with Lyles starting, now you can fluctuate the minutes. You could have TD playing, 30 minutes a night or 30 minutes tonight, but him just not starting is him being in that position of coming off the bench the way he would. So my thought was maybe Trey Lyles starts at the 4.
I think the biggest argument for Trey Lyles is that he is a reliable kind of glue plug and play guy. I think I know what I'm getting out of Trey Lyles when I put him on the floor, regardless of who he's next to.
Yeah.
So if he's out there to space the floor and not be a liability defensively, I can check that box. For Terrence Davis, I think it's more potential for more maybe net positive on the offensive end. Defensively might be a push between the two of them. Plus he's coming off of a hot game. So I think I reward that a little bit more. But if Terrence is the starter, there's no reason to really roll your eyes at that. I just wonder, if Terrence is the starter, then where do those backup minutes at the 4 come from? Do you consider going big at times? Does Rashawn Holmes finally get a little bit more run? Or
Shime Monecki is here.
That's true.
Hey, you know what? A couple of people in the chat talked about it, and it's kind of funny that, I mean, this is just completely out of the window considering how the season started. They're like, what about no KZ Akpala? He can't start.
Poor guy.
They didn't start the season with the man playing at the starting 3-4, whatever the case
That'd
may
be pretty amazing if KZ Akpala started tonight. Like, oh, Keegan's out. Of course we're going to KZ Akpala.
He's such a poor man's scapegoat right now, and I feel so bad for him because the Kings got off to the worst start when he was a starter. He's moved out of the starting lineup, out of the rotation completely, and now all of a sudden the team is
that's
figuring it out.
terrible if
Like,
anyone's blaming him.
Yeah.
But it's
He
like an
was-
easy connection to make, right?
that's
It's an
silly.
easy dot to
That's
draw a
crazy.
line to.
That's so funny.
craziness.
That all right. Full disclosure, I didn't think about it one time.
I didn't either.
I didn't think about KZ Akpala starting one time.
I did. I looked in the chat and they were talking. I was like, oh yeah, Casey.
Can we
could start.
confirm he's still in Sacramento? Has anyone seen KZ? Well, we saw KZ Akpala play.
We saw him on Tuesday, and like I said, after Tuesday or on Wednesday show or whatever, I was like, look, I know it was a 30-point blowout, whatever the case may be. I just saw him out there on the floor. I like the way he defends. I do. I think there is space for him to at some point be on the court. I think a couple times, it was later in the third or whatever, the game might have been over, but he was on Kevin Durant and he contested the shot really well. Like, he's got length. He's athletic. I don't know. I'm
Maybe he
kind of
gets the
baffled by the
nod.
fact that
Maybe he
doesn't
gets
get
the
any time.
nod tonight.
You know what?
Maybe
No,
so.
there's only two ways to handle KZ. It's either start him and give him all of the minutes,
Mhm.
or don't let him suit up. There is no middle.
Apparently
It's
not.
just that's it. You're either everything or nothing. This is Mike Brown's Kings.
You're listening to D'Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, driven by Lashers, Elk Grove Dodge, always live on the free Odyssey app. We're on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/ESPN 1320 and youtube.com/ESPN 1320. But that's just the way Mike, like we were talking about this a few minutes ago. Terrence Davis, sensational. In this win streak, there's a game he didn't play.
Right.
Like that's one of the most amazing things about that he had that game, he had that 31-point outing that he had against Brooklyn, that massive blowout on national television. Yeah, he didn't play 2 games before in what was one of their biggest wins of the season at the time against Cleveland.
Yep. That's just I give more credit to, if anything, give credit to TD for that.
Well, I give credit. Yeah, absolutely. And that's absolutely a credit to Terrence Davis. I think it's a credit to everyone on this roster, because they know, Mike, it might not be my night.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that KZ Okpala's number was going to get called if it wasn't a 30-point blowout. I know at the end of the first quarter, he put him in for like 7 seconds.
Yeah.
But then, the game opened up and he wound up playing, quite a bit there. But that's a tribute to this team, this version of this team, who seems to be as connected as any team, certainly in my time of covering them.
Well, let me ask you this too. What did it mean to you that Fox and Sabonis combined had the same amount of points as TD? And I'm not saying that in a
Terrence Davis is the greatest King ever.
Well, that too.
That's how
that's a fair takeaway. I was thinking more along the lines of the Kings beat an NBA team by 32 points. They put up 153 points in a game, and they did so with De'Aaron Fox scoring 14 and Sabonis scoring 17. And there are going to be some people that only will pay attention to box scores that say, wow, the Kings went on their big run in the second quarter when Fox was out of the game. But to me, like, I'm wondering how enjoyable this must be for Fox, to where a run like, to this point in his career, a run like that in the second quarter doesn't happen if Fox is not the catalyst, right?
Absolutely.
Now he's sitting on the bench. He's watching TD come in, who, to your point, didn't play 2 games ago. He's coming in, getting chewed out by Mike Brown immediately and responding instead of folding in on himself like a lot of players did when Luke Walton would get upset sometimes if he maybe is capable of getting upset.
That's a funny point that I don't know that we've pointed out before. We always point to Mike's timeout 15 seconds in calling in getting at Terrence Davis. Terrence didn't play the first quarter. That means Terrence Davis had played exactly 15 seconds of basketball before getting cussed out by Mike Brown.
And he responded. That's the big thing, though.
Phenomenal.
There are so many players that was shut down with that. And that's what I think speaks to the respect that Mike Brown has is, hey, he can pull you aside in front of a bench and 17,000 people in an arena. They can't hear it, but they can see the body language. You can get cussed out, and then you go out there and make huge defensive plays and then drop 31. Like, that's a response. That's a response that, like, it's something that shouldn't be as taboo as it is here in Sacramento. Like, and as a former player, like, responding to your coach, some different coaches respond different ways. And we've heard so much, or rather players respond different ways. We've heard so much about how well De'Aaron is responding just to being coached this year. Like, he's being pulled aside and said, this was great. You could do this better. And De'Aaron's responding to that. Like, that to me is, if you're talking about changing a culture, changing an environment, that's where I think the changes really started with this group is, I can chew you out. I have your back. And then you go out and respond for me immediately. And I'll do it in the middle of a game. I'll do it 15 seconds into a quarter. Like that. Not too many coaches, I don't think, could do that in the league and still have their locker room intact.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a credit to those players as well. Because from everything that we've heard, Fox, Terrence Davis, a number of those guys, they asked for something like that. They asked for, a coach to come in there and hold them accountable and things of that nature. And when it actually happens, they're not going back on that. They're like, okay, yeah, I was wrong. I got to be better. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to take it in any type of way that's going to affect the way that I perform. I'm going to go out there, listen to what's being said, and try to execute it and be better.
Yeah.
So, credit to them.
It's good vibes. Got to keep going, man.
Yep.
I for the purpose of tonight's game, we're going to point this out, not to shade the opponent. Spurs stink defensively. They're the worst team in the league defensively, which is an absolute wild sentence to utter. But statistically, the San Antonio Spurs are the worst team in the NBA on the defensive end. There's a number of metrics that they're really, really bad at that seem to favor the Sacramento Kings in this game. They've lost 7 of their last 8, and it's just all right, we believe this team is different. This is a team that's going in the wrong direction. That's not very good. That might be without their best scorer tonight. And how are you going to respond? You outlined earlier. We've seen this before. You go out, you get a big win, maybe an unexpected win. This one of their biggest wins in recent memory, given the stage that they were on. How are you going to respond to that? And Kenny pointed out earlier, we're talking from our trauma, not theirs.
Yeah.
This isn't stuff that they've dealt with. This is stuff we as fans have dealt with. And from a player's perspective, from a team perspective, they're unrecognizable when as compared to teams that we've seen in the past.
Absolutely.
It's just the same uniform. That's it.
I think what's also kind of been exciting over this recent stretch of success is the Kings haven't come out in the first quarter and necessarily shot lights out. Now, as a whole, as a team, they ended up having a really good shooting night against Brooklyn. But if you remember the start of that game, the Kings created some good separation against Brooklyn, but they were doing so while shooting in the 40s, pretty much from the field. And that elevated into the high 40s and 50s pretty much into the second quarter. But what I'm interested in seeing is, do the Sacramento Kings come out against the San Antonio Spurs? If the shot's not falling early on, do they continue to chuck, or do they go to one of the pillars of Mike Brown's offense, which is, okay, try and get the ball inside a little bit? Like, I think Domantas Sabonis has figured out that he can pretty much eat against anybody that's not named Steven Adams. Like, and that's the way he's been playing. He actually established the Kings offense in the first quarter, I thought, against Brooklyn. He had 4 quick points, was dominant in the paint. It's like, okay, there's nothing Brooklyn can do against this guy. And after I said something about that, I didn't really notice Sabonis much in the game from that point on, because he was still having his way inside, but the Kings were hitting everything on the outside too, so it didn't matter at that point. The floodgates were open. But does Sacramento come out against the San Antonio Spurs team that is bad defensively and think that they can just shoot like it's an open gym? Or do they continue with if the Kings continue with their principles of getting Fox in the paint, getting Sabonis the ball in the paint, having Harrison attack and kick out, if they're getting paint touches, I don't think a win should be a problem. But if they try and just get out there and say, okay, we can just kind of get our layup lines in or get our shots up, maybe the Spurs are bad enough to allow you just to have your layup lines. Yeah. But I think my whole point is, regardless of opponent, does Sacramento continue to play their game? Because they forced Brooklyn to play their game completely on Thursday, and it resulted in a 32-point win. Yeah. I think they're capable of making anybody play to them and not trying to match up with anybody. That's why I like so much what I like so much about Brown's consistent rotations is he's doing the same thing with his players regardless of who his opponent is. Right. So instead of, okay, you're going to get more minutes tonight because you're facing this center or you're facing this wing. I get that you're trying to game plan, but you're adjusting or upsetting what you do that you've had success with to handle another team. Yeah. I like, especially in your own building, I like you making another team handle you, especially when it's a team like San Antonio that's struggling as much as they are.
I look at this San Antonio team in this matchup with the way this Kings team is playing, and my message to them would be just eat your vegetables early. Take care of business early. Because if you do that, you'll be able to eat your dessert.
Get that soft serve that they got at the Golden One Center in the fourth quarter.
Do your job early.
I want that soft serve so bad.
James Ham gives his credit card up, and you never know who's going to get it. I'm just saying. James gets surprised too, because he'll give his credit card up and suddenly there's like 5 of them coming back.
No, hey, that's what happens.
But you like 6 people can share one of those things.
Not with me. Not with me. Well, 1, I can't eat any of it. But 2, every time I see it, it's like, oh my God, that looks like the most incredible ice. Because I used to love soft serve. It looks like the most incredible thing ever.
But yeah, handle your business early.
Yeah.
And you'll have your soft serve later. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So don't come out. It's much like the Lakers game. And they didn't do this, is they kind of let the Lakers feel good about themselves, shoot the ball really well, and they end up being in a bit of a dogfight at the end of the night. They were able to pull it out, so that was good. But if they weren't down 13 early, or they were able to get stops and play kind of like they did in that third quarter, in the first 2 quarters, maybe you would have had a much smoother night. That's what this game is going to be about for me. Take care of business early, and you should have a smooth night tonight.
And to me, that's a sign of discipline. That's a sign of discipline that good teams have. Now, I'm not saying the Golden State Warriors never fell behind at any point, and the Golden State Warriors were masters of closing gaps. And that's another note that I want to get to. But to me, it's a sign of discipline that no matter who you're facing, up, down, level of competition, whatever, you still play the way that you're supposed to play, and you know that you can play. But I mentioned the gap closing. Like, this is something that I think Mike Brown has taken really well from the Golden State Warriors that I haven't heard too many people talk about. The Kings have made 13-point deficits not look insurmountable. The Kings go down 13 points last season. I'm like, forget it, because it's going to be 20 before it gets to 10. Like, this year, it's like, okay, the Kings have gone down 13. I'm not happy to be in that position. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm okay with it, but the Golden State Warriors could come back from 13 down in a matter of possessions. Kings aren't that good yet, but the Kings could come back from 13 down in half a quarter. And we've seen it multiple times this season. That's exciting to me, to where you don't ever want to get into those holes. But when you do have those slumps, you have a team that at least believes enough that they can and is capable of climbing out of it without wasting a boatload of time. Like, that's a big difference. That's a big Warriors trait that I think Mike has brought to Sacramento.
And they're really comfortable with each other. And when you go back and talk about those first 4 games of the season, I wonder how much of it was figuring each other out. On the floor, off the floor, Mike, what he's doing with the rotations, all that different stuff. It was all so new, despite having preseason and training camp, and despite the fact that a lot of guys were here for a really long time in live settings. This was all brand new. And as the games have gone by, again, 0 for 4, I thought they played well in most of those games. I thought they played well in all of those games. But moving forward, it was just like that comfort level increased to where you see deficits get erased. You see them go on runs. You see, them move up the leaderboard, if you will, in terms of assists per game, team assists per game.
Yeah. I think too, Mike was trying to teach. And at some point, sometimes lessons take.
Which I'm not confident was, and I don't think that was done last year. I don't think teaching was done last year.
Right. And to see, to be privy to a practice or even a shoot around session, now I'm not saying this is something specific to this year's Sacramento Kings team, but if you're ever early enough to the arena and you can pay attention to shoot arounds, you'll notice before each player does their one-on-one with whatever coach, they sit down on the bench and they watch film together, dissect something or look at what they're trying to do. They go and work on it. And then they typically end with, again, looking at the film together and then go back, and that's their pregame workout. And then they get ready to suit up and actually play a game like that. There's teaching happening consistently and actively. And I think sometimes you need that. I mean, there's a reason why we take tests in school, right? You need that test of an actual in-game setting, and you need maybe a few of those to get your legs underneath them. So maybe Mike was consistent with it. He said, I don't think we're far off. I think we're doing the right things. We're 0-4, but we're 0-4 in 4 very winnable games, with the exception of giving up 1,000 points to the Warriors and Golden State. So it's
which they were still sort of in.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't feel good about that comeback at all, to be honest with you. But at the same time, it's like we said, they didn't fold, and teams in the past would have folded. That 50-point second quarter, don't even bother coming out in the third quarter. It would have been over at that point. I didn't
love it either. Kenny swayed me a little bit on it. In the moment, I didn't like it, but doing the show the next day, I was like, oh, okay. I get why there might be a little bit more to this comeback than I was giving it credit for yesterday.
That was a big deal for Chimezie Metu. That was Chimezie Metu's game, and since then he's found a rotational spot.
Yeah,
and I think Chimezie's playing fantastic.
He's playing
really good, and better than I expected. And now it also kind of hurt my Richaun Holmes loving heart, because I think Chimezie Metu has been doing everything that Richaun Holmes should be doing. It was fun to see Richaun get the ovation. Richaun get the ovation that he got when he checked in at the end of the Nets game, and I think he rewarded
and played
that.
well.
And he hit a corner 3. I was like, hell yeah, show off that jumper.
Man, we love Richaun out here in Sacramento.
Oh
that's what it is. We love Richaun out here.
Yeah, that's not even up for debate.
But also, I'm sure Rashawn's not happy, but have you ever seen a moment of Richaun actively pouting on the bench?
No.
He's up, he's cheering, he's getting involved. He's I've paid very close attention to it. Rashawn's a very likable guy. He's a very well-respected guy. He's an energy guy, and he still brings that energy to whatever role, even if it's off the bench too. So, and that also speaks to, I think, the kind of, we used to kind of roll our eyes at Vlade Divac wanted to build a locker room of good guys. And I get it's more fun to have a team of likable people that get along together, but ultimately you're trying to win basketball games. Sometimes you need an a-hole or an enforcer in there to get that done. But Richaun is a likable guy that I think builds chemistry. And he's also the Kings have also added a guy like Matthew Dellavedova, who stays ready, but also is actively coaching and up and having fun on that bench too. So like that's a big deal to me.
You know, Rashawn, thinking about that, Rashawn made a three. I think he got an alley-oop too or something like that, and made a three in that game on Tuesday. And like you mentioned, he's not happy about what's going on. He wants to be out there, whatever the case may be. But he hits the three, and then he kind of goes to the crowd, gives a little three sign up there, and good spirits, things of that nature. Never pouted. It reminded me of, I don't know if you guys were outside, Matt. I don't think you were outside. Damien, you might have been outside.
Is it cold out there?
Remember when Derek Martin, when Rick Adelman wouldn't play him and he got into the game and he hit like 3 threes and he hit the three and he turned around and stared a dagger at Rick Adelman after every shot. That was bad.
Why don't
vibes.
I remember that?
Yeah.
That was bad vibes. And that's not what Rashawn did. I say out to say that's not what Rashawn did. Like he could have.
He wasn't trying to show up Mike Brown.
No, he got in there. He played his time.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard. I understand it, but that's just a testament to Mike Brown, a testament to Rashawn Holmes, a testament to this team where, hey, the most important thing is winning right now. And whatever anybody needs to do to contribute, they're all down for it right now.
Well, and as far as I know too, from just conversations that I've had in my own personal perspective, like Rashawn and Mike have a very good relationship. Like they kind of that relationship began and flourished pretty quickly when Mike was hired. Rashawn was at Mike's introductory press conference. You see them communicating all the time in Kings practices. Cameras caught them a few times as well. Like I don't know how they know each other personally, what their relationship is like personally. Never talked to them in a like a 3-man setting or anything like that. But all signs point to there is a respect factor there. So if a coach is telling you something you don't want to hear, which is you're out of the rotation for now, I'm sure it's not easy to accept. But when it's from a coach that you respect, who knows that you have value and is going to work to try and find out how to use that value for the better of the team and the better for you ultimately, I think it's easier to accept. And I think that's kind of where I brought up Matthew Dellavedova too. Like with both of them, I think Delly especially knows, okay, I'm not going to play too much on this team, but I'm playing for a coach that was with me when I first came into the league. And he knows what I'm capable of doing. And I've already shown him in this handful of minutes that I've gotten what I'm capable of doing. I trust him to know how to use me, and I'll stay ready for that. And I think Rashawn should have the same approach. And if he continues to give spot minutes like he did against Brooklyn, then he is providing that same approach. And that's valuable.
Why do you think I'm sure you saw the Sabonis Huerter numbers, the ridiculous percentage that Kevin Huerter is shooting off of passes
Their
from
pick and roll
Domantas
game is
Sabonis.
great.
Why is it working so well?
I can't remember if it was Kevin Huerter that said this. I think multiple players have said this, to be honest with you. Harrison Barnes has definitely said it too. Domantas Sabonis is just an easy guy to play with, it looks like, and it sounds like from what they've said. Like Sabonis knows where to get you the ball, how you want it. And I think Kevin Huerter is a significantly better player. He moves better off the ball than I realized. And I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of time that he had playing with Trae Young. But it's not just moving off the ball when the ball's on the other side of the floor at the top of the key and he's going from the corner to the wing. It's in the split second of Sabonis has the ball right in front of me and I'm going to run a curl around him, or I'm going to step back and he's going to get me the ball. I think there's just a natural trust between the two that, like, the decision is completely Sabonis's. Sabonis either decides to give up give that pass to Kevin Huerter, and it's been a good decision because Kevin's hitting 50+% of threes, which is nuts. And we're not just 4 games in now. We're 13 games in and he's still shooting 50+%. I'm not saying he's going to average that at the end of the season, but Kevin Huerter's a damn good 3-point
He also
shooter.
had a game where he was 1 of 8.
Yeah.
He had a game where he was 1 of 8 and he's still averaging 50%.
It's nuts. But I think, like, when I see the two of them play together, it looks like there's a complete trust, something that takes a while to develop. Like when the Kings of the early 2000s, late 90s, like, there was a trust completely around them. They knew where each other. You hear Doug Christie talking about this all the time. He knew where Peja was without looking. He knew where Webb was without looking. I'm not saying they're there yet, but there seems to be a trust between Sabonis and Huerter to where Huerter knows I'm going to get to my spot. If he gets the ball to me, it's the right decision and I got to put it up. If he decides to keep it himself and attack, that's because they have so much respect for me that Sabonis can now get his. Like that, just their 2-man game has been pristine. And I think we're seeing that I think the two of them have clicked quicker than anybody else on the floor. But Sabonis is starting to establish that relationship with a lot of different guys in different key moments. And because Sabonis is so important to the offense and because his minutes are staggered to where he plays with bench guys, like he and Malik Monk have established a good relationship. Like it's rare to see bench guys have that relationship, with a starting center, because he's out there to play with them and to get them and to help them out. So so the unselfishness of Sabonis mixed with the trust of Kevin Huerter, I think, is the answer to your question.
Casey, real quick, we've got tickets to see the Sacramento Kings take on Detroit. You can cheer Marvin Bagley live and in person
I'm gonna miss it.
this Sunday at the Golden One Center, 3:00. We've got your tickets right now. Caller number 3, 916-909-1320. We'll send you to the Sacramento Kings and Detroit Sunday afternoon, Golden One Center.
The only home
cheer
game,
on Marvin Bagley.
The only home game I'm missing this year.
Really?
I'm hiding from Bagley.
Wow, you're
it's a
ducking
shame.
Marvin.
I'm ducking Marvin. Man.
Is
crazy.
Do we? Nah, I don't think so. I was about to say, you guys think Big Marv is going to be there?
So a couple of people have asked that. I'm gonna go no.
No, there's no food.
I'm gonna
apparently.
go.
There's no good food there.
That's true.
Man's got to eat.
Not to be all in your business. Where are you?
I'm. You're not going to be surprised at all. Disneyland.
Oh, okay. Because I keep thinking, wait, the Causeway's Saturday. I'm doing like math in my head. Like, why can't you be there Sunday? You're living your life with your children.
Yeah.
Your child.
Well, I mean, we're using my child as an excuse. He's free right now. And you got to take your kid to Disneyland for the pictures. He won't remember anything, but Mom and I are Disney adults. So we're going to go.
There you go.
Okay.
Good stuff.
All right.
We're driving.
Yeah.
Kyle Madsen went like a week ago.
What is he?
Adults
8 months?
8 months. He's 15 months or almost 15 months.
Well, it's about the same when you talk about taking him to Disneyland.
Yeah, it's free.
Now he is free, so there's that.
Freed up to 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think we took Reese for his 3rd birthday. He was free. Yeah.
But we're bringing the in-laws, like mom, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law are coming too, so that when it's late, we got a hotel that's close. So dump them off, dump the baby off. You guys go to sleep. Wife and I will close down the park and hit the rides.
There you go.
All the duck Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, 100%. I run from my trauma.
That's fine.
From my trauma.
Did you have anything on Huerter and Sabonis?
No, I love them.
Get those sticks.
Good radio.
I love them. Hey,
he wonders why. Seriously, you see this right here?
I love them. I love what they're doing out there.
I want Kenny to be on TV.
These guys are dominant together.
I want Kenny to be on TV, so they prepare a whole minute and a half long highlight package for Kenny to talk over, and he goes, "Love them." Well,
this is great. Look at that dunk. Look at that dunk.
And boom goes the dynamite.
That's always the tricky part when we do Sports Sunday, because we don't always know when a video package is going to roll. So we don't really know how long we're supposed to talk. So all of a sudden, we're giving our thoughts. Oh yeah, Huerter, Sabonis, that's great. All of a sudden, a video package rolls, and it's like, oh, we're supposed to keep talking. Okay, we got more time.
Well, how about the video package where we're like, I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he's starting to play well. He's starting to do some good things out there. And the video package is him throwing interceptions and missing people wide open. They're like, oh,
it's normally the opposite for us. Like I was trying to put together for ABC 10, we were talking about Josh McDaniels and how much he's been struggling. And all I could find was him hugging Carr on the sidelines and him dapping up a coach after a win in preseason. I'm like, oh, well, he's happy now.
I remember the Russell Westbrook highlight package.
That was uncalled for.
They set us up. They set me up and asked about the Lakers or whatever it was, and they just put on this highlight package of Russ hitting the back of the backboard.
Oh, that's cruel.
Just the ball going out of bounds off his foot. It was just the most awful highlight package. And he told me later, it was a 15-minute highlight package that they were just running until we stopped talking.
That's wrong.
Oh, it was terrible. Uncalled for. We'll come back. You talked to Jerry Reynolds about the way the Kings are playing. I want to talk to you about that. We'll talk more about the game as the Sacramento Kings look to win their 5th game in a row tonight against the San Antonio Spurs at the Golden One Center. That's all coming up when Matt George of ABC 10 and Locked On Kings return with us here on Sacramento Sports Leader ESPN 1320. Clear.
That's so funny. I love him. All right.
Thanks, Kenny.
So funny. Caught me so off guard.
I also saw the clock, and I was like, well,
Love him.
Just good.
I didn't even look.
So Matt George took up all my
I was
time.
like, I won't go into a diatribe here.
Is that Cuz's brand?
No.
Oh no.
That's
No,
ours.
this is
Oh, that's your guys' stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, because I know he has a loyalty brand, doesn't he? Cuz?
Yeah, Donnie made this. Man.
I like
I
it.
think this is a 101.
Yeah, there aren't many with the D-Lo and Casey logo on them. Like you have one,
Mrs.
Miss P
got
has
one,
one.
yeah.
Miss P might have two. I might have sent her a couple. But yeah, I was like, oh,
I may or may not
let
have
Don take the heat for this one. In case there's any.
I may or may not have taken advantage of a post game sale to cop me a Corners of the Culture hoodie. So
Hey,
I
Did
saw-
you really?
yeah, I saw Matt. Not Matt. Jesus.
Devon?
No.
No.
Who the? Thank God we're not on the air. This is embarrassing. It's my guy. Hosts Candlestick Chron. Chris Biederman.
Oh,
Jesus
Chris.
Christ.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him
I'm gonna call
wearing
Chris
the.
Devon.
Well, no, what you were saying,
I'm
because
gonna call
Devon had the I sent him an off-white
No,
hoodie.
is that the one that Matt Chris?
Chris had the corners. Chris had the
Yeah,
Jay-Z
the
hoodie
That's
on.
the
joint.
that's the one I
Yeah.
got, the Jay-Z
Yeah.
one, the white hoodie, because just what I need is something that I can stain.
We'll get you a black off-white hoodie.
I'll take whatever I can get.
That's what I'm
Also,
calling him.
Devon Biederman. Devon Biederman.
That's what I'm calling him.
Oh, man.
man.
I love that so much.
Sacramento Kings insider.
Yeah.
Devon Biederman.
I also
Oh,
need. I
that's
might need a new
fantastic.
the blue Luke Belair blue hoodie if you guys are still selling them, because my wife
Yeah.
stole mine and I'm never getting that back.
It's hoodie season.
We got
Jeez.
some.
Still
We got
your
some.
hoodie
I'll
season.
send you some. I'll send you some of our new stuff. We got some really good new stuff.
She went to your house one time, D-Lo, and she's y'all biggest fan.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we loved her. We loved having you guys over. That was awesome. Even though you wouldn't come outside and smoke with us.
Oh, I saved your house because the
Oh.
last time I made that combination, I destroyed a bathroom.
I would. We were
gosh.
talking about it outside. Like, you think we could probably fuck Matt up if we get him out here.
Yeah. And that no, because when you invited me outside and my wife turned and looked at me and gave me that look like, last time you did this, I almost divorced you. And I said, okay.
That was good. That was a good call. Then that was a good call. Then. Yeah, I've had a bad.
It was a
reaction.
campsite
I've had a
bathroom.
bad reaction to a cigar though.
It
Like
was-
I can. I
Well, I
remember.
was
I think it was the party before. Like we were outside, everything was good, and had a couple of. It's like, oh, all right, no, that's cool. Go grab a soda. And got up, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
all right,
It happens quick.
breathe.
It happens quick. Yeah, I was at a campsite. I was way too many drinks in, paired it with a cigar. Within 30 seconds, it went from totally fine to sweating and bad.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was bad. It was not a good combo.
Never had an issue.
I slept bad that night. I was like, oh man.
Never had
Cigars
an
are great on a
issue.
golf course, though. Very enjoyable.
Weed's easier to smoke than cigars. Cigars can be
You gotta
really
be careful with that
strong.
weed, right, John? You gotta be careful with that weed. You never know.
Well,
Never know what'll happen. Could kill you. You don't know.
that was Matt's crowning moment. Oh man.
Boy, I thought my career was going to end by my own choices. Yeah, you might OD. You got that
Like,
right, John. You never know.
oh.
You never know. Weed, man. It's out there.
Oh man, we gotta.
Zach Randolph. You
Oh,
gotta
I am absolutely not that. Absolutely.
be careful. Not at
I'm
all.
absolutely not that.
Not at all.
I don't mind being the weed guy. I think you know why? It's because I lit one up this weekend and it's like, hey, it's worked out well. Slept good. I was shout out Crystal Nugs. If that's what that does and it settles you like that, dude, you call me whatever you want to, because
Well,
I was probably mad at Kenny for some reason. I didn't even tell him about it. And I just went outside. I was like, I'm gonna smoke this. And I wasn't mad at him no more.
well, someone was praying for you because you didn't know D. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
We're
I
happy
didn't
for
get a
you.
bad strand.
No, you didn't. You never know. You never know.
They arrested Zach Randolph for weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're edible. They I think they like their edibles, man. Edibles
Yes.
those can be
They pop them right before shows
sneaky.
sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, edibles can be. Well, edibles take a while to kick in, but when they do, it can. Hey,
Never
how
done
you
it.
doing?
Never done it.
Yeah, I'm all out of this combo.
Nope. I've never done it. No idea.
Maybe one day.
Smoke a
Maybe
pixie
one
stick,
day.
but
You're already chill. Like you don't need it. Like you ain't got a care on the planet.
see when you kind of
Kenny
saw
comes in late for the show the other day. Not his fault at all.
traffic.
No, we weren't supposed to be here. We were supposed to
Oh.
be at home. So he lives way further than I do,
Yeah.
but he gets in. My man's just slowly unpacking it. Show it's like 12:05.
Well, to be fair to me, you were in the middle of a monologue, so I was trying to be quiet.
Well, no, it wasn't meant to be a monologue. I'm
trying
stalling for time.
I was
thinking,
waiting for a
my-
moment to like get in there. I was like, I ain't gonna be like,
my man's unraveling his.
hey, I'm in here, D'Lo. Hey, I'm in here. Hey, it's like, all right, let me like
Stop talking. It's my time.
Oh man, hang on. For those on the radio and the Odyssey app, what we just established is Kenny has driven me to smoke weed. That's what we established in the last commercial
Be
break.
careful. You never know, D'Lo. I'm telling you, I've seen it.
It's never not funny when you do that. Matt George, Locked On
It's
Kings.
especially funny when it's on my Twitter on 420 every year. Every year,
That's got to be John Bull.
100%.
Got to be John.
And then
Bull.
you and Deuce with your freaking gifts. Ugh.
Well,
It's usually a New Day gif. I don't know why. It's always New Day gifs.
it's a new day. Yes, it is. J-Lo says legalize beam. You got a whole new meaning to light the beam.
Ooh.
Light the beam. Matt,
Yo,
Locked On Kings podcast.
Hey.
You talked to Jerry Reynolds.
I
recently.
did.
How is he feeling? There are very few people who have seen it all.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Sacramento Kings, Jerry has seen it all.
Well,
How does he feel about this squad so far?
Well, first off, Jerry's even more of a trooper because he was dealing with a cold while he still came on with me. So I really appreciate
Well, that's good because you have the longest running
It's
cold in
death.
history.
It's trash. My son gave it to me and said, it's yours now later. Pay for my college.
Well, I was talking to Matt at the game a couple days. I was like, Matt, like you still nothing? Nope. Still lingering.
Yep. Just never goes away.
Sorry, buddy.
It's okay. What was the question? Oh yeah, Jerry Reynolds. Well, Jerry's made this comment a couple times, the last couple times that I've been on Locked On Kings, or he's been on Locked On Kings with me, because I always make the comment usually at the end, like the Kings need to get a playoff series just so my man can get in the building and be a part of the broadcast or part of the festivities or something. Like he and G-Man have earned it more than anybody else on this planet. Like they deserve to cover and watch and be there for the Kings returning to the playoffs. But both the last two times Jerry's made the comment like, well, I've sometimes I don't know if I'm actually going to make it to them getting there. You're like, oh, yikes. Well, best of luck to that part, Jerry. But he's very pleased, obviously, with what's going on. He's a huge fan of Domantas Sabonis, like huge fan. I titled the podcast accordingly because he, on his own accord, said like Domantas Sabonis is a better version of Vlade Divac and is not that far off of Weber. Yeah. Like it's like, okay, I mean, it's kind of clickbate, but kind of not. Like it's
no, you got me. But not that, I mean, I listen
yeah.
regularly, but you got me. I was like, oh, I got to hear how Matt rational, and then to hear it was actually Jerry that said that.
It wasn't me. Don't give it to me. Send your
Great
angry
work.
emails. No, Jerry, he was great. And I really wanted to tap into kind of the coach brain because I wanted to talk to him about Mike Brown figuring out his rotations and how much that's translated to the success. And then I also wanted to ask him, like, as a coach, what would he do, or how much easier is his life if he has a player like Sabonis who you can do everything with, essentially? Like you can run almost anything through him defensively. I argue maybe shouldn't be your defensive anchor, but he's not a horrible option as your defensive anchor. He's starting to figure it out without fouling over the last week or so. Yep. And Jerry, I mean, if you get the chance to go and listen to what Jerry had to say about Domas, we talked about what he had to say about, like, he talks about De'Aaron Fox is not a playmaker. He's a scorer who can play make. And now Domas has allowed Fox to just focus on being a scorer who can still play make. He had 9 assists in the Brooklyn win. He's had a 12 assist game earlier this season. So he can still play make just because of how much attention he draws, but he doesn't have to be the point guard. Sabonis is the closest thing to the point guard on this team. And I'd argue the next player is Malik Monk. Like Malik Monk has shown more point guard tendencies at times than Fox has. but that's because Sabonis. That's why Sabonis complements De'Aaron so well, is he can take some of that off De'Aaron's plate, and then De'Aaron can naturally provide those numbers his way instead of the floor general way, which he never has really been.
Yeah, and Jerry talked about in that situation, and he was right about it. Right, we often talk about the Tyrese component of it all, and Jerry's like, Tyrese is phenomenal. He's phenomenal. He's a great ball player. But how else were you going to get a player like Sabonis?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is a big guy, talked about, better than Vlade, close to Weber. He said, you're not going to get him in the draft.
Yeah.
How were you going to get a guy like this? So you had to give up something to get a player like Sabonis who fits so well with everything that you're trying to do. And we, I planned to talk about it. Myself and Jason talked about it, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday. But we're looking at a guy in Sabonis that probably, and I have no reason to believe he's not going to put up the same production that he's putting up now for the rest of the season and for the first half of the season, is probably an all-star center in this Western Conference.
Yeah.
He's an all-star. I mean, you got Jokic, you got AD, but depending on what that
Anthony
record
Davis
is
not an all-star.
Well,
now.
he's the numbers is crazy. The numbers is crazy, but they're not winning.
Right.
He's averaging 24 and 11.
Yeah,
So-
that's cool. But we better start holding other players accountable the way we
agree.
hold Kings players accountable.
I agree. But even if you have AD, or it's just for argument's sake, he's not there. I mean, it's Jokic and it's Sabonis. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're dealing with right now. You're dealing with one of the top players in the game today, and it's just a joy to see him operate the way he does every night.
And I'm surprised I didn't answer the question that you asked me last segment this way. You asked me, like, what do you see that's different from the 0-4 start to right now? And Jerry kind of pointed this out to me too, is like one of the biggest strengths that he thinks of this team, he started talking a lot about the depth, and that kind of depth is something the Kings don't have. And remember how much the bench was struggling during that 0-4 start. We were questioning, oh God, we thought we had a deep team. This team is not as deep as we thought.
Yeah.
It's just because the combinations were wrong, or people weren't necessarily sure what their role was as part of that depth. Now it seems like, for the most part, Brown has figured that out with Malik's role and Trey's role and Chimezi's role. And like, that's where Jerry and I started talking a lot about kind of like what we talked about, which is De'Aaron can sit back and have a lead that he's built and know that it can not just be sustained, it can be built upon. Or he can get off to a slow start and not play his best basketball. And by the time he comes back into the game, his bench has gotten him back in it. So he's almost got a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's with sometimes him on the floor with the bench. That's with Sabonis on the floor with the bench sometimes, or both of them are out and the bench is doing that. So that depth is something that it doesn't, like, it's what they're supposed to do, but it's like you don't realize something. You don't realize you had something until it's gone. It's almost the opposite. We didn't realize how important it was until it's here, and you're seeing how directly it's translating to winning basketball.
Yeah, and I think Kenny makes such a great point. We were talking about all-stars because we always focus on De'Aaron and how De'Aaron's time and Donovan's out and all of these different guards that are out, and how this is De'Aaron's time to be an all-star. And you look at this thing and you go, man, it actually might be Domantas Sabonis who gets an all-star nod, and he's certainly playing at an all-star level. It'll be those will be fascinating subplots to watch moving forward, which is also why I think that game last night was so important. By the way, NBA heads, they watching tonight.
Yep.
There's like 3 games on tonight.
Yeah.
I don't even know if any of them are really that good, but there's 3 games on tonight. Like, people are going to be NBA guys, NBA people. They're going to be watching the Sacramento Kings again tonight.
I wonder if you both felt this the way that I felt this, because we were all in the building for the national TV game. Like, I started out the Locked On Kings podcast after that game, and my intro went way longer than I intended because I got on kind of like an emotional soapbox. And I actually know, like, on the Deuce and Mo podcast, Mo got a little teary-eyed, and I felt that same energy. It was like a release, a finally. And to me, what the national TV win was about, I believe the Kings would have done that to any team in the league. Maybe not put up 153 points, maybe not blow them out by 32 points, but I think the Kings would have sent that same message against Milwaukee Bucks. Doesn't matter. Like, I think they would have done that, because I think
that would have been a story.
I think it didn't matter who they played. I think what was more important was this Kings team got an opportunity. This new Kings team got an opportunity to put themselves on the map a little bit, say we're not a fluke. Like, just because we're in Sacramento, you're not going to ignore us. I imagine guys like Kevin Huerter, who are traded from Atlanta, coming to Sacramento going, I'm not going to be that shooter that everybody forgets about now that I'm in Sacramento. So they have their own motivations to want to send a message. Of course, De'Aaron Fox is out there like, I've been in obscurity my entire career. You will not ignore me anymore. Sabonis, I'm sure, has heard the chatter about Tyrese Halliburton trade, whatever. They all have their own reasons. But for me, as a Sacramentan, a former, I mean, I still am a Kings fan, but now in the professional scene, like that night, Tuesday night, to me was so much about the city of Sacramento and was so much about this opportunity. TNT has only been in the building once before. It was against the Clippers. It was years ago. The last national TV game was when the world shut down because of COVID-19 against the Pelicans. So this is a stage that Sacramento doesn't normally get. It's normally on NBA TV, doesn't count as much. And they took the stage and they made a statement, I thought, as a city, made a statement as an organization, made a statement as a team that is like, enough of the jokes, enough of the low-hanging fruit. We know you don't pay attention to us, but you make comments on national television and make comments on podcasts like you do pay attention, and you're ill-informed.
And they did it following that game too, by the way.
Yeah. And then it'll continue to happen. But if this is the only platform the Sacramento Kings get all season to send that message in their building, I thought they made the absolute most out of that. And as a Sacramentan, as someone who is aware of how good this fan base is every single night, not just when national TV and TNT's in town, like I was prideful. I felt so much pride in that building. I felt so much kind of joy in that building because, it's game 13. People make fun of them. Oh, you're throwing this kind of celebration because the Kings are one game above 500. Yeah, but it's not about
kiss
that.
my ass. I'm going to do it when they're 2 games over 500 too.
Yeah, but it was more than that. Like, to me, it was like, this is a city that has been through a lot of crap when it comes to their basketball team. They rallied to keep the team, let alone like continue to support them throughout the trash. And it's one game. It's one night. It was something that I think this city needed, a message that this city needed to send. And I just left. I recorded that podcast and I left the arena that night just feeling an immense sense of pride. Like, okay, sure, the Kings can build upon this, but whatever, forget the rest of the season. In a one-game capsule, a one-night capsule, this was about Sacramento, and the Kings made the most of it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it was a party in Golden One Center on Tuesday. And I had that tweet out there talking about, it's only game 13. It's crazy how, the city has reacted, the fan base has reacted, the way everything was at Golden One Center that night for game 13. They went 7-6, won one game above 500, but everybody's on the same page. Everybody's on the same page in the city and with the fan base. And I'll ask both of you guys, do you think they get another game?
They ought to. I like Barkley's idea.
TNT.
I did love Charles Barkley's idea.
The first one that I'm seeing, I was kind of doing a quick look at it, could happen. January, the Kings have no Thursday games. December's a little too early. NFL's still around. February 23rd, Blazers come to town on a Thursday night. The TNT game that night is Warriors at Lakers.
Oh, God. Oh, that could be bad.
Flex.
That could be bad by that time. But with that said, I don't see Steph and LeBron getting flexed out of no matter how bad they are. Unless
they're not there.
God forbid, one of them's not playing. Or both of them are.
I think they might get one more, though. They might get one more. I don't know which one it is. I haven't really looked into it like that. But
I think it depends on how the end of the season goes too, and how close the Kings are to actually like securing a playoff spot versus a play-in spot and seeding like that. Because you look at, there's a stretch at the end of March. They're against Minnesota. I guess I could even go one game ahead, Utah, even though Utah's at the top right now. I think they're going to fall off a little bit, but they're at home against Utah, at home against Minnesota. Then they have 2 games in a row in Portland, home against San Antonio, and then in New Orleans and in Dallas. Playoff seeding wise, that's a bunch of Western Conference matchups that might have an effect, especially if the Kings are in the mix. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of national attention to. Okay, we're on like playoff drought breaking watch at this point. If the Kings are not just a guaranteed 10th or 9th seed play-in team, but like, okay, they're in the 6th conversation, maybe they're in 7th or 8th, but they're 2 games back of 6th. Like maybe that the national kind of media starts paying attention to that a little bit, or maybe the Kings are in the 6th spot trying to hold for dear life. Like that'd be interesting.
TNT games don't air locally. Do ESPN games?
Yeah, well, they don't air locally. Well, maybe they do.
Because I keep
I think they
thinking,
do.
like,
I
how
think they do. Actually.
fantastic would it be to have Mark on one channel and Kyle on the other?
Yeah, right.
It'd be Mark and Doris on one channel,
Yeah.
and then Kyle and
I think they might. They might.
considering how cheap ESPN is. I don't understand how they didn't schedule Mark for a bunch of. We need a Wednesday. Oh, Sacramento. Yeah, let's do Sacramento. That way Mark can do it. We don't have to pay for his travel.
Then looking at it, ironically enough, the Kings, if I'm seeing this right, February, they only play on Thursday 3 times. They only have
Yeah,
Thursday games on 3
that's
times.
normally built because there's normally, like tonight, there's normally only a couple of games on Thursday nights, and the Kings generally aren't one of those.
Well,
because it's normally and I don't know, it's normally the 2
they try to
plus the 1.
Yeah,
There's normally
they usually do that. I know in the last few years they've started to put more games on Thursday.
I feel
but
like the Kings have
traditionally-
had Thursday games
Yeah.
like last year where it's like, okay, we can't watch the game everybody else is watching, so
Right.
we'll watch the Kings. get there.
Traditionally, it's been standalone. You know,
Mhm.
you get your 2 prime time. That's it. But they've switched that up a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I think that Portland game is interesting. Might go to TNT.
Yeah, it's tough. Warriors, Lakers. It's hard to envision. They did move the Knicks out though, right?
Mm-hmm. Then the
Oh,
other
that's
game that
different
could
than
be a
LeBron.
Thursday is the Knicks game. Knicks Kings here, and I think Golden State and Memphis play on TNT that night.
Is Julius Randle still balling? I
He
saw
did
he
last
was off to a
night. He did.
ridiculous
Yeah,
start. So
I think he had like 30 something last night,
Yeah.
31 last night.
Comeback win against the Nuggets.
Yeah, he had a night.
I
Yeah,
will
the night.
always irrationally stand against the Julius Randle disrespect. I will always irrationally stand.
We've both always liked Julius Randle.
Oh, because I was a big proponent of Julius being a target for the Kings trade wise before the DeMontis. Like this was the beginning of the season before I even thought Sabonis was available, and it was no, Randle sucks. And maybe he would have been bad here, but man, he balls out.
I'm very happy with what the Kings
Absolutely. I'll
got
take
at
what
the
they
trade
did.
deadline.
100%.
But I never understood the idea that Julius wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I never understood. I felt like every member of the Kings Herald wrote like 10 articles about why Julius Randle sucked. Or maybe they didn't write articles, but they tweeted us about why Julius Randle sucks.
Right.
Most
And
of
I
the
just
Kings
didn't
Herald is
understand
like
it.
extremely positive right now. It's freaking me out, but I like it. I'm here for it.
They don't know how to act.
I
None of
know.
us do.
I know.
It's an entirely new universe that we're living in, where we're going into a game tonight against the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich, where we firmly believe the Kings should walk away with a victory.
They're like an 8-point favorite tonight.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's
7.5 or 8.
Yeah,
That's
that
kinda
is-
scary,
that
actually.
is. I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do
It's
here.
going to be in a void.
But
for
that's
me.
probably going to be the case on Sunday too. And like, going 4-0 at home, winning. See, at that point, it'd be 5, it'd be 6 in a row. Like that's a 6. That'd be the longest winning streak since I, honest to God, don't know when. But then you're hitting the road for a brutal stretch with Memphis and Atlanta on the Tuesday and Wednesday. Then you got Thanksgiving crammed in there on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then you're going against the Boston Celtics on Friday.
Yep.
Yep.
Who you traditionally play well.
Well,
Except for the time he lost by 60.
I don't remember that. Oh, was Tyrese here when they lost by 60?
see. I think
I'm so glad you caught that.
there might be a bad omen to that because for some reason, Buddy Hield always played really well against Boston. Always played well against Boston.
have
Don't
good
know
games.
why. So hopefully,
They lost by 60, Matt.
well, that was one time. They
Who was
beat
the
him
point
here in
guard?
Sacramento.
All I remember
What was the point guard?
was it Tyrese.
I think so. Yeah. Tyrese. Yeah.
That's a winning point guard. I watched him last night, by the way.
We like
I don't, because we're jerks. This is not about this isn't like some underhanded shit. Benedict Mathurin is a bad dude,
He's
man.
good.
Oh
He's
my
very good.
gosh. He's
a
so good.
problem.
That's why. Are we sure Indiana can't sustain this? He's
Man,
really
the way
good.
he's playing, the way Buddy's playing, Tyrese obviously, and Miles Turner. No, if they keep playing like this, yeah, they're gonna be right there.
Benedict Mathurin's really good.
He is. He's the truth.
Yeah.
He's the truth.
Yeah.
Boy, if the Pacers make
That's
the playoffs and the Kings don't, though, there's a meltdown happening somewhere.
Oh, for sure. But there again, there's no rule that I'm aware of that both teams can't win a trade.
100%.
Man, And
Absolutely.
it's been perfect for both teams.
Yeah, like Indiana, like we talked about before. I see what Indiana's doing. Benedict Mathurin far better than I imagined this first year, and obviously I think we're all pleased with the way Domantas Sabonis is playing, and with the way things are working out.
Mathurin was nice in Vegas too. Seeing him in person in Vegas, I'm like, okay, wow,
He's a bucket, man.
Yeah, he really is.
He's a straight up bucket,
and he's a great defensive prospect too. Like he can, when he wants to defensively. Whew, no, thank you.
Benedict Mathurin in Sacramento on November 30th.
That's how we're pushing it.
The return of Buddy Hield.
Oh well,
Buddy Hield,
flamethrower.
Buddy's going to put up 30 shots in that game.
Oh, he getting them up.
Buddy going for it.
He getting them up.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Buddy going for
He
it.
getting them up.
If I want that game to be close, this is a very intentional shot. I want that game to be close so I can watch Buddy dribble the ball off his foot out of bounds and feel good about it.
It's amazing that actually happened, though. Like that actually happened in a game deciding moment.
That did last season.
That's what I mean.
But I want it to happen here.
Oh, yeah.
So I can see it in person and feel good about
I
it.
got you.
Damn.
I got you. We all deserve that.
Kings officially are 8-point favorites tonight.
Nope. I'm avoiding that one. No thanks.
Man.
No touchy.
Hey, man.
What? It's a Disney line. It says so on the back of my car, too.
It's like dealing with a sophomore class.
When I go see my car in the parking lot, it has Cusco, Emperor Cusco as a llama. So it's a Disney movie, right? So he's an emperor, right? But he's an ass. So he's turned into a llama and he's humbled.
I do remember that movie.
It's a great movie. Phenomenal movie. Emperor's New Groove. 10 out of 10. D-Lo, let's watch it tonight. You want to come?
I'm about to be revisiting all those movies very soon.
We live close to each other now.
Can't believe you started over.
Princess and the Bride on the loop.
I think it's the Princess Bride.
Oh no, it's the Princess and the Frog. Ain't that the one?
There's like 6 of them.
Show's over. I'm leaving. I can't be around.
We live
both
close
of
to
you
each
at the
other.
same time.
We live close now, so let's do movie nights.
I'm leaving and I'm moving. Check out the Locked On Kings podcast wherever you get podcasts from. Matt George, ABC 10. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. J Street Vibes available.